beast, isn't it? If Uncle Kyan fancies it, your nephew will gift it to you right now." Having said that, his body swayed slightly, as if he might collapse at any moment. The moment his words fell, that tangible, oppressive pressure abruptly dissipated. The spirit power wildly leaking from his body finally stabilized. Spirit masters below the spirit saint realm were as if granted amnesty, many slumping to sit on the ground. They gasped for breath in great heaves, their chests heaving violently. Cold sweat on their foreheads slid down their cheeks, soaking their collars. Their eyes were filled with the terror of having narrowly escaped disaster. Tang Zhen also let out a long sigh of relief. His back was already soaked through with cold sweat, and his legs still trembled faintly. For a moment there, he truly felt he couldn't hold on any longer. If not for the stubborn resolve of being the sect master of the Clear Sky sect supporting him, he might have already knelt. "Good nephew," Kyan Dailiu's voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Come visit the spirit hall when you have time. It has indeed been too long since we uncle and nephew last gathered." Without waiting for Tang Zhen's response, the 6 wings on his back gave a flap. Golden light erupted as his figure transformed into a streak of flowing radiance that shot straight into the sky, vanishing from everyone's sight in an instant. Sect Master Tang, who was that person just now? Prince Zhu Xing, supported by the Heaven Du Grand General, stood up with a pallid face. His voice still held undispersed shock. Tang Zhen remained silent. His fists were clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white, veins bulging on the back of his hands. His lips pressed into a thin line, and he said nothing for a long time. That person was the high priest of the spirit hall, Kyan Dailiu. Sword Duluo Chenzin withdrew his gaze from the sky. He spoke in a grave voice. Alongside Senior Tang Chen, he is known as one of the 2 peaks of the Spirit Master's world. He is among the most supreme existences in the current Spirit Master's world. To think he's actually still alive, Zhu Yi murmured, his face etched with shock and disbelief. He had grown up hearing the legends of the 2 peaks. Those legendary figures who existed only in stories had actually appeared before his eyes today, displaying such terrifying power. What ability did he use just now? We were utterly powerless to resist. Prince Zhu Xing asked again, the apprehension in his tone difficult to conceal. "That was a domain," Tang Zhen finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "It was his angelic domain. Even among titled Duluo, fewer than 1 in 10 can comprehend a domain. To resist a domain, one must possess a domain." Prince Zhu Xing's eyes flickered. He hurriedly said, "Sect Master Tang, I suddenly recall there are urgent matters awaiting me in Heaven Du. I must take my leave." The Heaven Du Grand General hastily supported him, and the 2 hurriedly departed. Zhu Xing inwardly grumbled. Which fool said a titled Duluo could only withstand an army of 100,000? Today, 5 major forces gathered, with over 2,000 spirit masters above the spirit ancestor realm. This force is enough to withstand 200,000 elite troops. Yet with just 1 domain, he suppressed everyone, and that included 5 titled Duluo. What's the point of fighting that? If we don't run now, are we just waiting to be captured in one fell swoop? Zhu Yi also hastily cupped his hands. Sect Master Tang, Star Luo also has pressing affairs. Farewell. Having said that, he led the Star Luo Grand General and left swiftly. Yu Yuanjin glanced at Tang Zhen and said solemnly, Sect Master Tang, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect will take its leave for now. This matter can be discussed later. Ning Fengjai fanned himself with a folding fan, a complex expression on his face. He cupped his hands towards Tang Zhen and said, Sect Master Tang, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School will also take its leave now. Today's events were truly unforeseen. If there is need later, you can send someone with a message. Having said that, he departed along with Sword Duluo and Bone Duluo. Father, Tang Hao looked at Tang Zhen, his eyes filled with confusion and anger, his voice raspy. Hayar, forget her. Tang Zhen closed his eyes, his voice weary and helpless. With Kyan Dailiu in the spirit hall, we have no chance whatsoever. Tang Hao and Tang Xiao exchanged a glance. Flames of anger burned in their eyes. Their fists were clenched so tightly, their nails dug deep into their palms, yet they were also filled with profound resentment. They knew their father spoke the truth. But to give up on N.A.N. like this, the pain in their hearts felt like being cut by a knife. 1 month later, Langshan City. The streets were bustling with activity. N.A.N., like a curious child, looked east and west, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she gazed at the dazzling array of trinkets on the stalls lining the streets. Kyan Zunji followed behind her. Seeing her so full of life, the corner of his mouth unconsciously lifted into a faint smile. 3 months. After these 3 months of being together, the potential of the blue-silver emperor had been developed to the fullest. Whether it was the pliancy of the water path or the tenacity of the land path, both were displayed to perfection. Kyan Zunji thought to himself, I have to admit, the regenerative ability of the blue-silver emperor is truly formidable. At the same realm, it far surpasses even the seraphim spirit. Bad guy, look, is this hairpin pretty? N.A.N. picked up a hairpin inlaid with pale blue crystals. The pin body was carved with intricate blue-silver grass patterns. Her cheeks slightly flushed, she held it up somewhat shyly for Kyan Zunji to see. Kyan Zunji glanced at it. The color of the hairpin complemented her eyes well. He nodded, not bad, it suits you. He casually fished out a few gold coins from his money pouch and tossed them to the vendor. Without waiting for change, he wrapped an arm around N.A.N. and turned to leave. The vendor caught the coins. Seeing their substantial weight in his hand, his face instantly broke into an ingratiating smile. He hastily bowed and scraped, saying, "Thank you, honored guest," his eyes filled with delight. "That thing isn't worth so much money," N.A.N. said softly, a touch of discomfort on her face. She struggled gently, trying to extricate herself from his embrace. Kyan Zunji held her tighter. He laughed dismissively. "If you like it, that's what matters. Just a few gold coins, not worth dwelling on." He glanced at the beast control ring emitting a faint silvery glow around N.A.N.'s neck, and silently gave Sister System a thumbs up in his heart. With this assistive divine artifact, it saved him a lot of trouble. The two strolled for a long time, gradually growing a bit tired. Kyan Zunji brought N.A.N. to the most luxurious hotel in the city, the Fateful Love Hotel, and directly booked a golden private suite. Pushing open the door, a rich floral fragrance greeted them. The room was adorned with various fresh flowers. Red roses were passionate and unrestrained, white lilies pure and elegant, pink roses shy and charming. They were entwined with golden ribbons, decorating every corner of the room. Red silk drapes cascaded from the ceiling, winding like waterfalls around the carved bedposts. The walls were pasted with festive stickers of mandarin ducks playing in water. In the corner, a circular pool shimmered with rippling light. A few rose petals floated on the water's surface, surrounded by dimly flickering candle flames. The entire room was suffused with an ambiguous, romantic atmosphere. N.A.N.'s ears instantly turned crimson red, her cheeks flushing a rosy hue as well. Her legs went slightly weak, and she instinctively shrank back. Her voice was as faint as a mosquito's hum. "Bad guy, can we not stay here?" It had been 3 months. Except for those few special days of hers, he would pester her to cultivate, almost every morning and night. If not for the formidable regenerative ability of her blue-silver emperor, her body probably wouldn't have been able to hold up long ago. No. Kyan Zunji raised an eyebrow. He pointed at the room, his tone carrying a hint of teasing. "This place costs 3,888 gold coins for 1 night. I've already spent the money. You have to make my investment worthwhile." His gaze locked onto her, burning with unconcealed intensity. N.A.N. grew even more flustered under his stare. Her heart pounded like a drum. Her legs gave way, and her body involuntarily fell backward. Kyan Zunji, quick as lightning, reached out and caught her steadily, then laid her down on the soft, large bed. N.A.N. lay on the bed strewn with petals, her cheeks flushed, her eyes darting about, not daring to look at him. Her long eyelashes trembled lightly, carrying a hint of shyness and unease. Don't you dare misbehave." Her voice trembled slightly, thick with shyness. Kyan Zunji didn't speak. He leaned down and pressed over her. Chapter 15. Bringing N.A.N. back to Spirit Hall inside the Supreme Pontiff Palace, Kyan Ling was frowning at a pile of official documents. He picked up a file to look through it, then tossed it aside irritably. muttering complaints. What are all these trivial matters? I am the dignified commander of the Angel Legion. Instead of hunting down those fallen spirit masters, I'm stuck here reviewing these useless documents every day. This is outrageous. Just then, the synchronized sound of armor clanking came from outside the palace. Several palace guard knights knelt on one knee and shouted in unison. Greetings, Supreme Pontiff. Kai and Zunji held Yin's hand and walked in slowly. He glanced at the desk full of documents and Kai Ling's bitter expression, then raised an eyebrow and asked, Commander Kai Ling, why are you here? Where is my father? Kai Ling looked as if he had seen a savior, hurriedly stood up and pushed a stack of reviewed documents in front of him. He said quickly, Your Majesty, you have finally returned. The High Priest asked me to come help with the documents. I've processed most of them, you just need to take a look. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Before he finished speaking, he was already walking quickly out of the palace. Brother Kyan, why did you bring me to Spirit Hall? Yin looked at the solemn and respectful surroundings, remembering that this was the core of Spirit Hall. She couldn't help but feel nervous, her eyes reddening slightly, filling with tears. There must be many titled Duoluo here. Could it be? Could it be that you want my spirit bone after all? Kai Zunji glanced at her sideways and said, As long as you wear this beast control ring, no one can see your true identity. Also, don't talk nonsense. The number of titled Duoluo here is far greater than you imagine, and their hearing is exceptionally good. Upon hearing this, Yin quickly covered her mouth with her hands, eyes wide open in a cute, dazed manner, and even her breathing subconsciously became lighter. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light shone from behind the palace, and Kyan Dailiu's figure appeared before them. He looked at Kyan Zunji, his tone carrying a hint of displeasure. Jir, you still know how to return. Kyan Zunji immediately put on a smile, pointed to Yin beside him, and said in a relaxed tone, Father, I just saw that our Angel clan has few descendants, so I prepared to expand the family tree. Kyan Dailiu's gaze fell on Yin, and he examined her carefully. The young girl looked to be in her early 20s, with a slender figure and a beautiful face, especially those eyes, as clear as a spring in a mountain stream. He secretly estimated her bone age. His heart stirred. Bone age around 23, and she has already reached the Spirit Emperor realm. Not bad, very good. This talent is even stronger than Bibai Dong without using her second spirit. A trace of approval flashed in his eyes. Subsequently, his gaze became sharp, looking at Yin, and he asked in a deep voice, What is your name? Yin was a bit frightened by his gaze, subconsciously shrinking behind Kyan Zunji, and answered in a low voice, Yin, my name is Yin. Yin. When Kyan Dailiu heard this name, it was as if a thunderclap rang in his mind. He turned abruptly, staring fixedly at Kyan Zunji, his eyes as if ready to spew fire. Jir, aren't you going to explain what is going on? That gaze carried undisguised killing intent. Kyan Zunji's heart skipped a beat, but he forced himself to remain calm on the surface. He pulled Yin's hand and, biting the bullet, said, Father, I have found a gifted daughter-in-law for you. Why are you looking at me with that expression? Clear Sky Sect, Blue-Silver Emperor. Yin, Kyan Dailiu said these words almost through gritted teeth. Jir, don't you need to give me a reasonable explanation? Kyan Zunji quickly pushed Yin forward and said with a smile, Father, look, Yin's spirit is the Blue-Silver Emperor, with innate full spirit power of level 10, and it is also a rare life attribute. This is a top-tier spirit that hasn't been seen in 10,000 years. For our Angel clan, this is a huge blessing. Kyan Dailiu's gaze swept back and forth across their faces, his eyes complex and difficult to understand, carrying scrutiny, anger, and a trace of imperceptible helplessness. Is she human or a transformed soul beast? Kyan Dailiu's voice was as cold as ice. She is human. Kyan Zunji said decisively. Are you sure? I am sure. Sure. Kyan Dailiu looked at them deeply for a long time before slowly speaking. Jir, you must be careful. I do not wish to see a second Xiaoxu appear. After saying this, he turned around, his figure turning into a beam of golden light and disappearing within the palace. Yin's tensed body instantly collapsed, her legs went weak, and she fell directly into Kyan Zunji's arms, her voice trembling. Brother Kyan, your father is so scary. Her eyes still held lingering fear. That is natural. Kyan Zunji held her, his tone carrying a hint of pride. My father is the peak of the spirit master's world, a semi-divine rank powerhouse who surpasses ordinary level 99 titled Dual semi-divine. Upon hearing this, Yin's face turned even paler, her eyes filled with worry and fear. Then wouldn't I? Kyan Zunji squeezed her hand and comforted her. Don't worry, as long as you wear the beast control ring, father cannot tell. Although he definitely suspects it now, given his personality, if he didn't act today, he won't act in the future. You can rest assured and stay in Spirit Hall. I will cultivate you with all my might. Yin looked into his eyes, and the fear in her heart eased slightly. She lowered her head and whispered, I understand. But in that voice, there was still unconcealable anxiety. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. Kyan Zunji smiled, reached out to put his arm around her waist, and pulled her closer to him. Outside the palace, several palace guard knights responsible for guarding saw the scene of them embracing inside and couldn't help but lower their voices to discuss it. Is that the young lady the Supreme Pontiff brought back? She looks quite pretty. More than just pretty, didn't you see her aura? She clearly isn't an ordinary person. But the High Priest's aura just now was so terrifying. I felt like I couldn't breathe even from far away. I really don't know how the Supreme Pontiff withstood it. Keep it down, don't let him hear. The Supreme Pontiff's hearing is very good. Do you think this young lady will become the future Supreme Pontiff's wife? Just then, Kyan Zunji's voice came from inside the palace. Let's go, I'll take you to see Xiaoxu. He held Yin's hand and walked out. The palace guard knights were so scared that they stiffened, instantly standing straight, eyes fixed forward as if nothing had just happened. Kyan Zunji's gaze swept over them, his eyes cold. The few of them instantly felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar, cold sweat breaking out on their foreheads, and they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. This month, your monthly salary is gone. Kyan Zunji dropped this sentence and walked away directly, holding Yin's hand. Not until the two figures disappeared at the end of the corridor did the palace guard knights dare to breathe a sigh of relief, their faces full of bitterness. It's over, I worked for nothing this month. It's all your fault. Why did you say so much just now? How would I know we would be heard? The few of them looked at each other, full of regret, but didn't dare to say another word and could only silently stand back at their posts. It was just that their backs looked somewhat dejected no matter how you looked at them. Chapter 16. Kyan Renksu in the garden spirit hall in the garden behind the mountain. The vegetation was lush, and the fragrance of flowers filled the air. A small figure sat with her back to the entrance, curled up on a stone bench beside the rose bushes. I sense that Kyan Renksu is over there in the garden. Let's go over. Kyan Zunji held Yin's hand and walked slowly toward the depths of the garden. Along the way, many spirit hall disciples and servants saw them and couldn't help but cast curious glances. Isn't that the Supreme Pontiff? Who is that young lady beside him? She looks very unfamiliar. Look at her attire. She doesn't look like someone from our spirit hall. Could she be the Supreme Pontiff's guest? She is truly beautiful and her temperament is so unique. I wonder what her identity is. Although the whispers were soft, they clearly reached Yin's ears. She lowered her head in discomfort, her fingers nervously twisting the corner of her clothes, her cheeks slightly flushed, and her eyes filled with a bit of unease. Don't mind them, let's go find Kyan Renksu. Kyan Zunji sensed her nervousness, gently squeezed her hand, and comforted her in a low voice. The two walked to the depths of the garden and finally saw that small figure. Kyan Zunji lightened his footsteps, crouched down behind the little golden-haired girl, and reached out to gently pat her back. Kyan Renksu, what are you doing? Kyan Renksu suddenly raised her head and wiped her eyes messily with the back of her hand. The moment she turned and saw Kyan Zunji, her eyes lit up. She immediately jumped off the stone bench, threw herself into his arms, and hugged his neck tightly. Daddy, seeing her red-rimmed eyes and the undried tear stains on her cheeks, a surge of anger suddenly rose in Kyan Zunji's heart. His tone also became stern. Kyan Renksu, who bullied you? Tell Daddy and Daddy will help you teach them a lesson. No, nobody bullied me. Kayan Renksu shook her head, her voice thick with a nasal tone. A pitiful expression appeared on her small face. It's just sand that got into my eyes. Looking at her appearance, which clearly showed she had been crying, Kayan Zunji felt very uncomfortable. He sighed and asked softly, "Did you go to find her again?" The her he referred to was naturally Bibai Dong. Upon hearing this, Kayan Renksu could no longer hold back, and the accumulated grievances gushed out like a bursting flood. She burst into tears with a wah, her tears falling like broken strings of pearls. "She doesn't like me. She ignores me. She was even fierce to me." All right, don't cry. It's Daddy's fault. Daddy shouldn't have mentioned her." Kayan Zunji hurriedly pulled her into his arms and gently patted her back to soothe her. "It's Daddy's fault for letting our Kayan Renksu suffer grievances. Daddy apologizes to you." Yin also crouched down, watching the heartbrokenly crying Kayan Renksu, a trace of heartache flashing in her eyes. She reached out, wanting to help her wipe away her tears, but hesitated for a moment, ultimately gently brushing the teardrops from her cheeks. She said softly, "Little sister, don't cry anymore. If you cry too much, you won't look pretty." Sobbing, Kayan Renksu looked at Yin with tear-filled eyes and asked curiously, "Big sister, who are you?" Yin froze for a moment, a trace of confusion appearing on her face. She turned to look at Kayan Zunji, her eyes filled with inquiry. Kayan Zunji opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but felt he didn't know where to start, hesitating to speak. Just at this moment, Kayan Renksu suddenly let go of Kayan Zunji's neck and instead hugged his arm tightly. Looking at Yin vigilantly, her small face full of wariness, "Daddy is mine, you cannot take him." Yin was suddenly a bit embarrassed, her hand stiff in midair, not knowing where to put it, and could only smile awkwardly. This little girl's sixth sense is too strong. Yin muttered in her heart, not expecting such a young child to be so sensitive. Yin's movements paused, her gaze subconsciously drifting toward Kayan Zunji, carrying a bit of helplessness. Kayan Zunji met her gaze, his Adam's apple bobbed, and he rubbed Kayan Renksu's hair, saying, "This is Aunt Yin. Aunt Yin can tell many stories about butterflies that glow and streams that sing, which are 10 times better than those in your spirit records." Kayan Renksu's sobbing lessened, her eyes blinking, with teardrops still hanging on her eyelashes. She can also braid hair. Kayan Zunji continued, gesturing with his fingertips. "She can style your hair into a double-ring bun, adorned with pearls, even prettier than the princess hairstyle you saw last time. When you can't sleep at night, she will hum tunes, which are more effective than calming incense. By the way, the osmanthus cakes she makes are wrapped with honey-preserved green plums inside, sweet and not cloying." The more Kayan Renksu listened, the brighter her eyes became, and the previous grievances were thrown to the back of her mind. She blinked her big, watery eyes, looking at Kayan Zunji, and asked with a hint of anticipation, "Daddy, is what you said true? Will she really tell me stories and make snacks for me?" "Of course it's true." Kayan Zunji nodded affirmatively, then looked at Yin. Looking at Kayan Renksu's expectant gaze, the trace of embarrassment in Yin's heart vanished. She nodded with a smile. "Yes, as long as Kayan Renksu doesn't mind, Auntie will tell you stories and make the snacks you like every day." Kayan Zunji picked up Kayan Renksu, let her sit steadily on his shoulders, and said with a smile, "Let's go. Daddy will take Kayan Renksu down the mountain to eat delicious food and then buy you fluffy dolls." "Great." Kayan Renksu immediately clapped her little hands excitedly, cheering on his shoulders. "I want very, very big dolls. I want 3. One for me, one for Daddy, and one for Aunt Yin." As she spoke, she turned her head to show Yin a big smile, her eyes curving into crescent moons. Kayan Zunji laughed aloud. "Okay, we'll buy 3, the biggest and most beautiful ones." Watching the happy appearance of the father and daughter, the corners of Yin's mouth couldn't help but turn up slightly, and she said softly, "Then let's go quickly, otherwise if we go late, the delicious food will be bought by others." Let's go," Kayan Renksu urged, her little hands tightly gripping Kayan Zunji's hair. Kayan Zunji held Yin's hand, carrying Kayan Renksu on his shoulders, and walked toward the foot of the mountain like a family of 3. The market at the foot of the mountain was bustling. A circle of children surrounded the sugar painting stall, and the sweet fragrance of candied haws mixed with the smoky scent of roasted sausages, wafted over. Kayan Zunji bought the largest candied haw, handed it to Kayan Rengsu, then turned to the doll's stall, picked a snow-white rabbit doll and stuffed it into Yin's hand. Take it, let it be a companion for Kayan Rengsu. When Yin took the doll, her fingertips touched the softness of the fur. Looking up and seeing the smile in Kayan Zunji's eyes, she suddenly felt that this bustling worldly life was much better than traveling the continent with Tang Hao and Tang Xiao. Holding up the candied haw, Kayan Rengsu suddenly pointed at the lanterns not far away. I want that rabbit lantern. One for Aunt Yin and one for me, Kayan Zunji smiled and agreed, holding Yin's hand as they walked toward the lantern stall. Chapter 17. Forcibly suppressing Bibai Dong, the Holy Maiden weeps spirit hall. In a side room of the Supreme Pontiff's residence, the candlelight was dim. Yin sat on the edge of the bed, gently patting Kayan Rengsu's back with her fingertips, humming a tune. The little one yawned, her eyelashes fluttered, and she soon fell into a deep, steady sleep, her small fist still clutching the corner of Yin's clothes. You stay here to keep little Zhu company, no need to wait for me tonight. Kayan Zunji pushed open the door and entered. His gaze swept over his sleeping daughter, and after leaving this sentence for Yin, he turned and left, his black robes sweeping across the threshold, inside the Saintess Hall. Bibai Dong was facing a bronze mirror, her knuckles digging hard into the edge of the mirror, her fingertips rubbed raw and red. The bronze mirror reflected her twisted face, with crazy hatred surging in the depths of her eyes. That bastard. To think he dared to bring a woman back to Spirit Hall, and was even laughing and chatting with little Zhu. What does he take me for? A piece of furniture to be discarded after use. She waved her hand violently, and the bronze mirror shattered onto the floor with a clang. The figure within the fragments also shattering into pieces. That old thing Kayan Dailiu forces me, and you, Kayan Zunji, bully me too. You all treat me like a chess piece, like a tool. Why should I, Bibai Dong, have to suffer this kind of humiliation? She recalled the woman Kayan Zunji brought back, recalled the smile Kayan Rengsu showed that woman, and her heart felt as if it had been pierced hard by spider legs, aching so much she couldn't breathe. The hatred for Kayan Zunji and the resentment for Kayan Dailiu coiled around her heart like poisonous vines, almost strangling her. You still remember little Zhu? A cold voice came from outside the hall, like a blade quenched in ice. Are you worthy? Bibai Dong stiffened, turned abruptly, and saw that Kayan Zunji was standing in the hall, not knowing when he had arrived. Fury ignited in her eyes instantly, her chest heaving violently, her voice sharp as a knife. Kayan Zunji, you bastard. How dare you find another woman, and even bring her back to Spirit Hall? Do you still have me, the Holy Maiden, in your eyes? I am the Supreme Pontiff. Kayan Zunji took a step forward, the pressure around him suddenly dispersing. You are merely a holy maiden. Why would I need your consent for what I do? His gaze swept over her, as if looking at an ant that didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The rules of Spirit Hall are set by me. Bibai Dong was completely enraged by his attitude, and the resentment and anger accumulated over many years erupted at this moment. The clothes on her back tore suddenly. 8 spider legs with a deep purple luster shot out, the joints flashing with metallic cold light. Black, 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 6 spirit rings lit up simultaneously, rhythmically circling her body. Eternal wound, she hissed, her 8 spider legs carrying a fierce wind, stabbing directly at Kayan Zunji's chest. The tips of the legs condensed with thick toxins, and wherever they passed, the air was tinged with a faint purple mist. However, just as the spider legs were a foot away from Kayan Zunji, they seemed to hit an invisible barrier and could not advance even a fraction further. Bibai Dong's face flushed red as she tried her best to drive her spirit power, but the spider legs remained motionless. HMPH. Kayan Zunji snorted coldly, and an invisible force erupted violently. Bibai Dong felt a massive force strike her, her body flying backward uncontrollably, falling to the ground with a thud. A mouthful of fresh blood spilling from the corner of her mouth, staining the collar of her clothes. Holy white light lit up around Kayan Zunji, and his angelic domain instantly unfolded, shrouding the entire Saintess Hall. Bibai Dong immediately felt that the spirit power in her body had encountered a nemesis, and it began to drain uncontrollably, a sense of powerlessness spreading through all her limbs and bones. You have actually already reached level 86. Kai and Zunji looked at her. Your second spirit already has 6 spirit rings. Bibai Dong raised her head, bloodstains on her face, but her eyes were full of resentment, staring fixedly at Kai and Zunji. Hatred, unwillingness, humiliation, and a trace of suppressed fear surged in those eyes, her expression twisted by extreme anger, looking exceptionally hideous. Kai and Zunji's gaze suddenly froze, the white light around him glowing brighter, and the holy power of purification surged toward Bibai Dong. What are you doing? Bastard, stop. Feeling the terror of that power, panic appeared on Bibai Dong's face for the first time. Her body shrank back continuously, her voice trembling. Kai and Zunji, you dare. Today, you made little Zhu cry. Kai and Zunji's voice was cold without a trace of warmth, his eyes sharp as knives. If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know whose spirit hall this really is. Don't resist, otherwise it won't just be your spirit power that gets purified. He paused, his tone carrying a naked threat. I don't mind purifying your spirit along with it. No, teacher, I was wrong. Bibai Dong was completely panicked, fear washing over her whole body like ice water, and she begged for mercy, her voice choked with sobs. I will definitely be good to little Zhu in the future. Please let me go. Don't purify my spirit. She knew clearly that if her spirit power was purified, she could cultivate it back in a few days, but if her spirit was purified, she would be completely useless. She still wanted to take revenge on Kai and Zunji, still wanted to find Yu Xiaogang, still had unfinished matters to complete. She absolutely could not be crippled like this. That was her only pillar for survival. She absolutely could not fall. Don't resist. Kai and Zunji took a red rope with a faint silver glow from his sleeve, his eyes indifferent, his tone terrifyingly calm. As long as you are obedient afterward, I won't cripple you. You, what are you doing? Looking at the red rope, intense unease welled up in Bibai Dong's heart. She retreated repeatedly, screaming sharply, don't come over. Bastard, Kai and Zunji, get lost, get lost. No, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. Her voice was filled with despair and madness, struggling desperately to retreat, but she was easily grabbed by the wrist by Kai and Zunji. Ignoring her resistance, he wrapped the red rope around her, binding her tightly. Like a trapped beast, Bibai Dong twisted frantically, but it was all in vain. Kai and Zunji picked her up and turned into the secret chamber inside the hall. The secret chamber door closed with a bang, cutting off all light and sound from the outside. The next day, at the first light of dawn, the first rays of morning sun shone through the crack in the window into the secret chamber. Kai and Zunji was already fully dressed, and he glanced at Bibai Dong lying on the bed. She was covered by a quilt, her flushed face had not yet faded, her eyes were filled with exhaustion, dried tear stains remained on her cheeks, her chest heaved violently, and she was still panting incessantly. In the future, for every time little Zhu cries, you will pay it back twofold. Leaving this sentence behind, Kai and Zunji turned and walked out of the secret chamber. The secret chamber door closed again, and Bibai Dong finally could not hold it back anymore, weeping silently, tears streaming from the corners of her eyes, soaking the pillowcase. The resentment in her heart rose like a tsunami, almost drowning her. She bit her lip hard until she tasted blood before letting go, her nails digging deep into her palms, leaving several bloody holes. Kai and Zunji, I will never let you go. This thought, like a poisonous seed, sprouted crazily in the bottom of her heart. Chapter 18. Tang Clan Hunting Spirit Beasts. God-bestowed Spirit Ring Spirit Hall. Inside the Supreme Pontiff Palace, Kai and Zunji sat upright on the towering Supreme Pontiff throne, his golden Supreme Pontiff robe embroidered with intricate angel clan patterns. Chrysanthemum Duoluo walked in silently, bowing and cupping his hands. Your Holiness, in the past few months, the brothers Tang Hao and Tang Xiao have frequently entered various spirit beast forests, hunting only spirit beasts over 50,000 years old. With such rampant slaughter, is it necessary to intervene and restrain them? Kai and Zunji tapped his fingertips on the armrest of the throne, making a rhythmic light sound, his tone calm and waveless. No need. Send people to keep a close eye on their movements and report any new developments immediately. Yes. Chrysanthemum Duluo bowed again and retreated, the palace doors slowly closing behind him. Kai and Zunji looked at the empty main hall, the corners of his lips curling into a cold arc. The Tang clan is truly blessed by heaven. Not only do they have that person secretly looking after them, but their luck is also so profound. He recalled the previous intelligence and thought to himself, the chance of a 10,000-year spirit beast dropping a spirit bone is less than 1 in 10,000. Yet Tang Hao once claimed that he had obtained 3 spirit bones after hunting only 310,000-year spirit beasts. Such luck had never appeared throughout the entire spirit master's world. In these past few months, the two brothers had become increasingly crazy, and it was heard that they had obtained more spirit bones. If this continues, once their spirit power advances further, they might become a serious threat. He had to find a suitable opportunity to dampen their arrogance, and it would be best to take those spirit bones. Jir, Xiaoxu is almost 7 years old. Are you not preparing to hunt a spirit ring for her? A heavy voice suddenly sounded in the hall. Qian Dailiu stood in the hall at some point, his body surrounded by a faint golden light. Her foundation has almost reached the limit of what her current rank can bear. Qian Zunji rose from his seat. Father is right. Let us go infuse a spirit ring for Xiaoxu now. He thought to himself. Xiaoxu's body had already struggled to absorb the medicinal power of the spiritual plant last month, and she had already reached the bottleneck of her current rank. A few days ago, I gave her an immortal herb, but she absorbed less than 1/5 of it. Enshrinement Hall on the plaza, a sparring match was in full swing. Qian Rengsu held a long sword that was crystalline white all over, confronting a spirit king wielding a 9-ring saber. The two were purely competing with spirit power and moves. Qian Rengsu's figure was as light as a willow catkin, her toes tapping on the bluestone slab, and her long sword stirred up a cluster of fine silver flowers, stabbing directly at the spirit king's wrist. The spirit king reacted extremely quickly, the big ring saber sinking down, the blade precisely knocking against the spine of the sword with a crisp ding sound, shaking the short sword away. Qian Rengsu took advantage of the momentum to spin, avoiding the blade wind swept by the spirit king, and at the same time, the short sword swept back, the tip of the sword grazing the spirit king's armor, bringing up a string of sparks. The spirit king's long saber slashed vertically with great force, but Qian Rengsu seemed to predict it in advance, suddenly lowering her body and drilling under the saber, the long sword taking advantage of the situation to thrust forward, pointing directly at the spirit king's heart. The spirit king hurriedly leaned back, his left arm blocking. Qian Rengsu turned her wrist, the sword's stance changed abruptly, changing from a stab to a slice, forcing the spirit king to retreat 3 steps before stabilizing his figure. Golden Crocodile Duluo stood by and watched. Seeing that although Qian Rengsu was young, her moves were agile and tricky, and her spirit power operation was steady and solid, he couldn't help but nod repeatedly, his eyes full of approval. Xiaoxu's progress is truly significant. She is actually able to suppress a spirit king. Qian Zunji and Qian Dailiu walked over slowly, smiling. Qian Dailiu showed a proud expression on his face, his chin slightly raised. That is natural. Don't look at whose granddaughter she is. How could her talent be bad? Qian Rengsu caught a glimpse of the two. Her eyes instantly lit up, and a soft golden halo burst out from her whole body, the angelic domain silently unfolding. The spirit king immediately felt a weight on his shoulders, and his spirit power operation became sluggish. Qian Rengsu seized this fleeting opportunity. Her long sword hummed, and she slashed out a sharp sword kai condensed with pure spirit power. The spirit king did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly activated his defensive spirit ability, and a layer of earthy yellow light shield emerged from his body surface. The sword kai collided with the light shield, making a dull sound. The spirit king was actually shaken back 7 steps, and the bluestone slab under his feet cracked with fine lines. Qian Rengsu flicked her wrist slightly, and the long sword was retracted into her spirit tool. She ran to Kyan Zunji, looking up with her small face, her eyes bright, with a joyful look of asking for credit. Father, look, am I amazing? Kyan Zunji bent down and rubbed her soft golden hair, his tone full of doting. Amazing, our Xiaoxu is the most amazing little angel. Xiaoxu. Kyan Dailiu called out softly, pretending to be dissatisfied, but his eyes carried a smile. Kyan Renksu immediately turned to him and shouted sweetly. Grandpa. Kyan Dailiu immediately beamed with joy and reached out to touch her head. Good child. Golden Crocodile Duluo waved his hand at the Spirit King, signaling him to step down. The Spirit King bowed and left the plaza quickly. Xiaoxu, shall we fuse a spirit ring for you in a while? Kyan Dailiu asked. Okay. Kyan Renksu clapped her small hands excitedly, her little face full of anticipation, her eyes as bright as stars. I have already prepared the spirit ring. Kyan Zunji stretched out his left hand, and 7-colored light flowed in his palm. A spirit ring flickering with red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple 7-colored light slowly emerged, floating in his palm, emitting an aura that was both majestic and gentle. God-bestowed spirit ring. Kyan Dailiu's pupils shrank, and he exclaimed in surprise. Jir, where did you get such a divine object? Kyan Zunji said. Father, I have already obtained the god's legacy, and the content of the god trial is to assist Xiaoxu in becoming a god. When she successfully becomes a god, I will be able to complete the god trial and inherit the god position. Golden Crocodile Duluo and Kyan Dailiu looked at each other, both seeing shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. Could the god's legacy actually be like this? One can inherit the god position by assisting others to become a god. This was simply unheard of. But I haven't felt the fluctuation of divine force on you. Kyan Dailiu frowned, full of confusion. My god trial is different from ordinary god trials. Kyan Zunji raised his left hand, indicating the spirit ring in his palm. This god-bestowed spirit ring is the proof of the god trial. Kyan Dailiu pondered for a moment and nodded slowly, the doubts in his eyes gradually disappearing. If so, then it is Xiaoxu's opportunity, and also a fortunate event for my angel clan. With the help of this divine ring, Xiaoxu's path to becoming a god will definitely be much smoother. Kyan Zunji handed the god-bestowed spirit ring to Kyan Renksu, his tone gentle but solemn. Xiaoxu, circulate your spirit power to guide it and try to communicate with this spirit ring. Remember, you must persist. The longer you resonate with the spirit ring, the higher the age of the final fused spirit ring will be. Compress your spirit power while absorbing the spirit ring to maximize the efficacy of the spirit ring. Kyan Renksu looked at the 7-colored flowing spirit ring, her little face slightly flushed with excitement, and she stretched out her small hand, holding the spirit ring in her palm. She sat cross-legged as instructed, closed her eyes, and guided the spirit power in her body to slowly inject into the spirit ring. At first, the spirit ring only emitted a soft white light, but after a moment, it turned into a bright yellow. After a few breaths, it turned into a deep purple. As time passed, the purple became more intense, slowly transitioning to ink black. That was the color only a 10,000-year spirit ring would have. Kyan Dailiu and Golden Crocodile Duluo held their breath and stared, their eyes full of nervousness and anticipation. Kyan Zunji stood aside, although his face was calm, his fingertips tightened slightly. An hour later, the spirit ring completely turned into pure ink black. 10,000 year. The first spirit ring is actually 10,000 year. Golden Crocodile Duluo exclaimed in surprise, his voice full of shock. Kyan Dailiu had an unconcealable ecstasy on his face. Good, my angel clan has successors. Chapter 19. Dual rings shine upon the world. The Supreme Pontiff advances. The black spirit ring grew increasingly profound in color, its age steadily climbing. 10,000 years, 15,000 years, 20,000 years. Golden Crocodile looked at Kyan Renksu sitting cross-legged, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. I never expected Little Snow to withstand the pressure of a spirit ring over 20,000 years. Kyan Dailiu spoke slowly. The greatest difference between a god-bestowed spirit ring and a spirit beast spirit ring is that it can bestow upon a spirit master the most compatible spirit ring age, and there is no disturbance from soul shock. Little Snow's spirit power has now been compressed 5 times. Her physical body strength rivals that of a spirit king, and her mental force is nearly approaching that of a spirit saint. As long as she can endure, the age of this spirit ring is guaranteed to reach at least 40,000 years. Upon hearing this, Gold Crocodile Duluo couldn't help but suck in a sharp breath, his voice tinged with shock. 40,000. That's a spirit ring only a spirit saint can absorb, and it's merely Little Snow's first ring such talent. Time flowed by in silent waiting. 2 hours, 3 hours. The age of the spirit ring continued to rise. 30,000 years, 35,000 years, 45,000 years. The next morning, Kyan Daeliu stared intently at Kyan Renksu. Beads of sweat seeped from her forehead, tracing down her cheeks. Her small face was slightly contorted from bearing immense pressure, showing traces of pain, yet she still gritted her teeth, refusing to give up. Almost there. Just 1,000 years left to reach 50,000 years. Gold Crocodile Duluo clenched his fist. Kyan Zunji said in a deep voice, "Believe in Little Snow. She can do it." 49,500, 600, 700, 900, 50,000. The pitch-black spirit ring suddenly contracted, merging into Kyan Renksu's body. Kyan Renksu's eyes snapped open. She swayed slightly, then stood up straight behind her. The 6-winged angel spirit slowly unfurled. Its holy golden wings shimmered brilliantly in the morning light. At her feet, a pitch-black spirit ring pulsed rhythmically. She lifted her little face, shouting excitedly, "Father, Grandpa, Grandpa Golden Crocodile, look." Little Snow succeeded. "Little Snow, what is your first spirit ability?" Kyan Daeliu asked urgently. A hint of pride flashed in Kyan Renksu's eyes as she explained its armament. It can materialize various weapons. With equal spirit power, the strength of weapons materialized using the spirit ability is 5 times that of not using it. Moreover, they can also carry various attributes of the spirit. Kyan Daeliu and Kyan Zunji exchanged a glance, both seeing amazement in each other's eyes. Kyan Daeliu clapped his hands, saying, "This spirit ability truly lives up to being from a god-bestowed spirit ring. It's truly domineering." At that moment, a cold, mechanical voice sounded in Kyan Zunji's mind. Kyan Renksu's first ring, 50,000 years. First crit, triple. Second crit, single. Total, triple. Host's first spirit ring age increased by 150,000 years. Kyan Zunji's spirit power erupted violently around him. 9 spirit rings instantly appeared at his feet. His first spirit ring rapidly changed from its initial yellow to purple, then transformed into black, finally leaping directly to a vivid red. That was the color unique to a 100,000-year spirit ring. A vast surge of energy poured from the spirit ring, flooding into his limbs and bones like a tidal wave. His spirit power instantly skyrocketed. Kyan Daeliu and Gold Crocodile Duluo's expressions changed drastically, their eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Kyan Renksu blinked curiously, looking at the vivid red spirit ring on her father, her little face full of puzzlement. Kyan Zunji felt the surging spirit power within him, almost breaking through his bottleneck. He quickly focused his mind and calmed his Kai, suppressing it with all his might. Now was not the time for a breakthrough. After a moment, that explosively increased spirit power was finally firmly locked within his body, stored away as potential. "Jeer, what is going on?" Kyan Daeliu was the first to regain his composure, his voice carrying a barely perceptible tremor. "This is a reward from the God trial," Kyan Zunji explained. "Since Little Snow's first ring far exceeds the limits of an ordinary spirit master, I received this generous reward." The corner of Kyan Daeliu's mouth twitched slightly. Looking at the bright red 100,000-year spirit ring at his son's feet, he was momentarily speechless. Gold Crocodile Duluo murmured, "Your Majesty, the Supreme Pontiff's current strength is probably already on par with this old man." "Uncle Golden flatters me," Kyan Zunji said with a cupped fist salute, his tone modest. "I am still far from your level." He turned to look at Kyan Renksu, saying softly, "Little Snow, first regulate your breathing and recover." we will absorb the second spirit ring." With that, he flipped his left hand over. In his palm appeared another god-bestowed spirit ring, shimmering with a seven-colored radiance. Kyan Dailiu's pupils contracted. He couldn't help but ask, "Jir, how do you still have a god-bestowed spirit ring?" Kyan Zunji smiled. "The deity from whom I inherited this legacy has always been magnanimous. With him here, we won't have to worry about Little Snow's future spirit rings." Kyan Dailiu opened his mouth, his face a complex mix of emotions. Back in the day, he had only received one god-bestowed spirit ring. Now, his son could casually produce a second one. This disparity left a bittersweet taste in his heart. Gold Crocodile Duluo was even more dumbfounded. Several days later, Kyan Renksu had fully recovered and began absorbing the second god-bestowed spirit ring. This time, the spirit ring ultimately stabilized at 65,000 years. As she had persistently compressed her spirit power, upon completion of the absorption, her spirit power directly reached level 28. Her mental force broke through to the realm of a spirit saint. Her physical body strength approached that of a spirit emperor, and the number of times her spirit power had been compressed reached 6. The mechanical voice sounded in Kyan Zunji's mind once more. Kyan Renksu's second ring, 65,000 years. First crit, single, second crit, sextuple, total, sextuple. Host receives a reward of 390,000 years added to the second spirit ring. A surge of energy, even more vast than the last, flooded into his body. Kyan Zunji immediately sat down cross-legged and began refining this power. He guided the spirit power coursing through his body, continuously compressing it. Each compression was accompanied by collisions of spirit power, emitting low, rumbling booms. The surrounding air twisted from the violent fluctuations of spirit power. Fine cracks appeared on the bluestone tiles on the ground, and small stones floated slightly. Kyan Dailiu, Kyan Renksu, and Gold Crocodile Duluo quickly retreated Tenjang, watching him with grave expressions. The other several enshrinement hall members, who had been in secluded cultivation, were also startled by this powerful spirit power fluctuation. They emerged from their residences one after another, arriving at the plaza. "Big brother, what's going on? Why is there such a strong spirit power fluctuation?" Lion Duluo looked at Kyan Zunji enveloped in spirit power in the field, asking in confusion. Pride gleamed in Kyan Dailiu's eyes as he said solemnly, "This is Jir. He is about to break through." Everyone followed his gaze. When they clearly saw the spirit rings at Kyan Zunji's feet, they all revealed expressions of shock. "Holy shit, what's going on?" Red, red, purple, purple, black, 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 black. Location Duluo rubbed his eyes vigorously, looking at thousand-weight Duluo in disbelief. "Sixth brother, am I seeing things?" Thousand-weight Duluo's expression was grave as he slowly nodded. "You're not mistaken. They are indeed 2 red spirit rings. Jir has already received the inheritance of a god position," Kyan Dailiu said with a hint of pride. Upon hearing this, the other enshrinement hall members stepped forward one after another to offer congratulations. "Congratulations, High Priest." "Congratulations, Supreme Pontiff." Several days later, Kyan Zunji's eyes snapped open, a flash of golden light vanishing within them. A powerful aura soared skyward, spreading outwards, causing the entire enshrinement hall to tremble. Level 97, spirit power compressed 3 times. The second strongest of the spirit hall has been born. Kyan Zunji felt the power within his body. The enshrinement hall members all showed expressions of joy. "Congratulations on your breakthrough, Supreme Pontiff." Chapter 20. The Supreme Pontiff's wedding news. N.A.N. is pregnant 1 year later in the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Beneath its solemn and majestic dome, Kyan Zunji sat upon the pontiff's throne. N.A.N. sat sideways between his legs, her skirt cascading like a waterfall. Her fingers unconsciously twisted the hem of her clothes, and the blush on her cheeks spread all the way to the tips of her ears. Her gaze, shy and timid, swept across the vast, empty hall before she couldn't help but snuggle deeper into his embrace. Chrysanthemum Duluo entered with light steps, his long robe brushing the floor. As he bowed in salute, the hem of his robe lifted slightly. Your Eminence, reports indicate that the brothers Tang Hao and Tang Xiao have both broken through to the titled Duoluo realm. Including Tang Chen, the Clear Sky sect now boasts 5 titled Duoluos within its ranks. What do you think, should we? He spoke with lowered eyes, his fingers curling slightly within his sleeves, his tone laced with concealed worry over the rise of this power. Qian Zunji's fingers idly stroked Yin's hair. He interrupted him. Chrysanthemum, convey my orders. Notify all powers across the continent that possess spirit duoluos or stronger. In 2 months, I will hold a wedding ceremony with Yin, inviting all powers to attend and witness. Chrysanthemum Duoluo's head snapped up, his pupils constricting sharply. The Supreme Pontiff was actually going to marry this woman and announce it to the entire continent. He opened his mouth, his Adam's apple bobbing several times before he finally bowed and replied. Yes, this subordinate will see to it immediately. Wait. Qian Zunji's voice carried an unquestionable authority. Ensure the message reaches the upper 3 sects and the 2 great empires without fail. Consider it special attention. This subordinate understands. Chrysanthemum Duoluo bowed again. As he turned and retreated, the sound of his robe sweeping over the threshold held his unquelled shock. Yin lifted her head, her eyelashes trembling like butterfly wings, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Why did you suddenly think of holding a wedding? Qian Zunji pinched her chin, forcing her gaze to meet his deep eyes. I think it's time to give you a proper status. Thank you, Brother Qian. Yin's voice was as soft as honey. She leaned in actively, her lips meeting his, carrying the faint fragrance from her hair. Her gaze was gentle as water, overflowing with complete trust and adoration. Qian Zunji deepened the kiss until her breath grew slightly ragged, then rested his forehead against hers, breathing lightly. Clear Sky sect inside the council hall. Tang Hao slammed his palm on the table, the solid wood surface instantly cracking with a spiderweb of fissures. The spirit hall goes too far. His eyes were bloodshot, spirit power churning within him. Yin was clearly our friend. He dares to marry her and even announces it to the whole continent. This is a slap to the face of our Clear Sky sect. Tang Xiao stood to the side, his fingers rubbing the token at his waist, his brow filled with helplessness. At the very least, Yin is safe. Tang Zhen sighed, his graying beard trembling slightly. Grand Elder, prepare a generous gift. The Grand Elder bowed in response. Yes, Sect Master. As he turned, his aged back carried the weight of his heavy considerations regarding the current situation. Within the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect, Yu Engine clutched the gilded invitation. The patterns on the invitation seemed to flow with the spirit hall's arrogant aura. He slammed it onto the table. Yin. Wasn't she said to be a transformed spirit beast? His voice was full of disbelief. What is Qian Zunji doing? Has he gone mad? The elders in the council hall looked at each other, none able to decipher the profound meaning behind this insane act. 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Ning Fengzhai watched the departing flying spirit master, who was at the spirit duoluo level. Truly worthy of the spirit hall, his voice held admiration, but also a trace of envy. To have a spirit duoluo level expert dedicated solely to delivering messages, such profound foundation, when will my 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School ever reach such heights? Bone Duoluo Gu Rong stroked his chin, his brows furrowed into a knot. Fengzhai, what do you think the Spirit Hall is really up to? Announcing to the entire continent that they intend to marry a spirit beast, aren't they afraid of inciting hostility from all over? That is precisely his brilliance. On the surface, it's a marriage. In reality, it's a show of strength. He dares to marry a spirit beast and dares to announce it to the world. That means he is certain no one would dare move against him lightly. This is a declaration to the entire continent that the Spirit Hall's majesty cannot be challenged. Ning Fengzhai looked at the invitation in his hand. In the Heaven Dew Empire's imperial palace, Prince Zhu Xing placed the invitation on the imperial desk. His voice carried unconcealed dissatisfaction. Your Majesty, what is the Spirit Hall trying to pull? Marrying a spirit beast and demanding our presence at the ceremony. Isn't this blatantly trying to embarrass us? Emperor Zhu Yi leaned back on the dragon throne, his fingers tapping the armrest thoughtfully. Go, why wouldn't we go? His gaze was profound. The Spirit Hall's power is immense. We cannot afford to clash with them for now. Prepare a generous gift, send an envoy. This is a good opportunity to gauge their true strength. Inside the Star Luo Empire's council hall, Zhu Yi handed the invitation to the Star Luo Emperor, his voice grave. Your Majesty, the Spirit Hall's move seems insane, but it conceals a sharp edge. The Star Luo Emperor took the invitation. Send an envoy. Ensure the formalities are observed. We cannot show weakness. Let's see what backup plans they truly have. The reactions of the lower four sects were more direct. Hu Yanzhen, sect master of the Elephant Armored Academy, pounded his chest, his armor emitting dull clanks. For the Spirit Hall to deem us worthy of an invitation is our honor. We must go, and bring abundant gifts to show the Supreme Pontiff our sincerity. The other three sects echoed his sentiment. Receiving an invitation from the Spirit Hall was a tremendous honor for them. The rest of the powers buzzed with discussion. Some smaller and medium-sized forces aligned with the Spirit Hall were overjoyed, seeing this as a perfect opportunity to curry favor. They began racking their brains to prepare congratulatory gifts. Meanwhile, those forces with long-standing grievances against the Spirit Hall gathered in secret, attempting to find a chink in the Spirit Hall's armor amidst this shocking wedding. The entire continent was stirred into waves by this wedding announcement. 1 month later, in the Supreme Pontiff's bedchamber, N.A.N. lay nestled against Qian Zunji's chest, her fingers lightly resting on her abdomen. She suddenly looked up, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, yet mixed with irrepressible joy. Brother Qian, I think, I might have it. Have it. Have what? Qian Zunji didn't grasp her meaning immediately, looking at her in confusion as his fingers trailed down her hair. N.A.N. shot him a look, her chiding tone full of tenderness. A child, of course, look, she said, taking his hand and pressing it against her lower abdomen. Qian Zunji immediately channeled his spirit power to probe. An extremely faint, yet undeniably real, pulse of life force reached him. Like a tender sprout breaking through the soil, brimming with vitality, it beat gently within his perception. Immense joy instantly overwhelmed him. He pulled N.A.N. into a tight embrace, then abruptly loosened his hold, afraid of hurting her with his strength. He lowered his head, kissing her from her forehead, to the tip of her nose and finally her lips. After a few breaths, N.A.N., her face flushed, pushed him away gently, her breath slightly uneven. Be careful, don't hurt the baby. Qian Zunji nodded repeatedly, his palm carefully covering her abdomen. The wild joy in his eyes seemed ready to overflow. He mused inwardly. 2 years. At least 50 times a month, each time not stopping until she couldn't take it anymore. Finally, they had a child of their own. It truly wasn't easy. Chapter 21. Wedding Turmoil, a pact of life in Death Spirit Hall in the reception plaza. The crowd was surging, shoulder to shoulder, with over 100,000 spirit masters gathered. The fluctuations of spirit power intertwined, forming an invisible pressure. Qian Zunji was dressed in a gilded Supreme Pontiff robe, the angel patterns on the hem shimmering brilliantly in the sunlight. N.A.N. wore a pale blue long dress, embroidered with exquisite blue-silver grass patterns on the hem. Standing by his side, her figure was graceful, and while her face bore a hint of shyness, it could not hide the glow of happiness. Around the plaza, thousands of spirit kings were dressed in bright silver armor. The armor gleamed with a cold luster in the sun, standing in neat, razor-sharp rows. With their long spears pointed diagonally at the ground, serving as honor guards, they silently guarded the area with an imposing aura. Chrysanthemum Duluo walked to the front of the stage, cleared his throat, and his voice spread through his spirit power, clearly reaching everyone's ears. The auspicious hour has arrived. We invite the various factions to present their congratulatory gifts. The first to step forward was the group from the Clear Sky sect. Tang Zhen, who was leading, gestured for his disciples to present the gift boxes and said loudly, "The Clear Sky sect congratulates Supreme Pontiff Your Majesty on your wedding. We have prepared a humble gift, 5,000-year spirit bones, 5,000 kattas of refined iron, and 800 kattas of meteorite iron." As his voice fell, the team from the 7-treasure glazed tile school stepped forward. Ning Fengjai smiled and signaled his attendants to bring up their gifts. The 7 treasure glazed tile schools congratulatory gifts, 10 boxes of gemstones, 100-year medicinal herbs, and 5,000-year medicinal herbs. Following closely was the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect, N.A.N said in a deep voice. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect's congratulatory gifts, 8 Thunder Chant fruits and 10 boxes of rare ore. A buzzing sound of discussion immediately erupted in the plaza. My God, the Clear Sky sect started with 5,000-year spirit bones. This is such a generous gesture. The 7 treasure glazed tile schools 1,000-year medicinal herbs are not simple either. Every single one is a treasure that is hard to come by. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect's Thunder Chant fruits are said to be able to enhance the power of lightning attribute spirits, and there are 8 of them. It seems that none of the major factions dare to slight Spirit Hall. These gifts are all very valuable. That is natural. Spirit Hall currently has the Supreme Pontiff and the High Priest, these 2 great mountains weighing down on everyone, so who would dare to be disrespectful? I heard the Supreme Pontiff is marrying a transformed soul beast this time. Is it true? She looks like an ordinary person. SHH, keep your voice down. Don't you see the people from Spirit Hall staring? Do you want to die? Spirit Hall is announcing this to the whole world. Daring to marry even a spirit beast, their strength is truly formidable. Subsequently, the envoy from the Star Luo Empire stepped forward and opened the gift box, which contained dozens of fist-sized night-luminescent pearls, round and plump, shimmering with 7-colored luster. There were also boxes upon boxes of exquisite silk and jade ware, fully displaying the Empire's foundation. The Heaven Dew Empire's gifts were more practical. Boxes of gold coins, porcelain, and calligraphy and paintings. Although they were not as precious as the gifts from the other factions, they showed pragmatic considerations. After all, the 2 great empires still needed to maintain a facade of peace with Spirit Hall. The Elephant Armored Academy's gift was the most direct. Hu Yanzhen personally carried a huge piece of black iron forward and said in a rough voice, "Supreme Pontiff, Your Majesty, this is the 1,000-year black iron treasured by our Elephant Armored Academy, wishing Your Majesty a happy wedding." An hour later, the gift-giving segment for the various factions was finally completed. Qian Zunji stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the plaza, his voice steady and powerful. "Thank you all for coming from afar to attend the wedding of N.A.N and me. Spirit Hall has noted today's gifts. From now on, anyone who maintains good relations with Spirit Hall will never be let down." Off the stage, Tang Hao clenched his fists tightly, his knuckles turning white, his gaze fixed intently on Qian Zunji and N.A.N on the stage. The flames of anger burned in his eyes, his chest heaving violently, as if he would explode at any moment. "Brother Hao, today is N.A.N's wedding day, so please don't do anything rash." Tang Xiao noticed his agitation and quickly reached out to press his shoulder, whispering advice in a tone full of worry. Yu Yuanjin stood to the side, his brows locked, his heart full of confusion. What is going on? Wasn't it said that this woman is a transformed soul beast? But looking at her aura, it is clearly no different from an ordinary person. The Clear Sky sect wouldn't lie. "Uncle Sword, can you tell?" Ning Fengzhai asked the Sword Duluo beside him in a low voice. Sword Duluo's gaze was as sharp as a sword. He stared at N.A.N for a moment and slowly shook his head. She is human. Qian Zunji seemed to have sensed the undercurrents off the stage. He looked at Tang Hao, the corners of his mouth curling into an imperceptible arc. He immediately put his arm around N.A.N's waist and said loudly, "Today is the wedding of N.A.N and me. From this day on, she's the Pope's consort of Spirit Hall, sharing honor and glory with me." A rosy blush flew across N.A.N's face, her eyes filled with shyness and happiness. She lowered her head slightly, her fingers gently twisting her dress hem. "Long live the Supreme Pontiff. Long live the Pope's consort." The disciples and attendants of Spirit Hall immediately shouted in unison, their voices resounding through the clouds, making people's eardrums tremble. Tang Hao could no longer hold back. The anger in his eyes was almost becoming tangible, and his spirit power fluctuated violently, causing the surrounding spirit masters to look over. I have one more piece of good news to tell the entire continent. Kyan Zunji's voice rang out again, drowning out all the noise. Yin is already pregnant, and my spirit hall is about to welcome a second successor. Upon hearing this, Tang Hao and Tang Zio's expressions changed drastically. Tang Hao's eyes were filled with pain, while Tang Zio sighed heavily, his eyes full of complexity. Kyan Zunji's gaze drifted toward Tang Hao, seemingly intentional, his tone carrying a hint of deliberate emotion. You all know that it is not easy for high-level spirit masters to conceive. For this child, Yin and I have gone through hundreds of days and nights. The hardships are not for outsiders to know. Every exhaustion after cultivate, every joy after worry, has made us cherish this hard-won fate even more. Yin's cheeks were as red as ripe apples. She gently pinched Kyan Zunji's waist and chided him coquettishly. "Brother Kyan, how can you say such things out loud?" Kyan Zunji. Tang Hao could no longer hold it in and roared furiously, his voice filled with anger and humiliation. "You used despicable means to abduct Yin, and now you are humiliating her in public. I want to challenge you," he looked around and said loudly. "This matter has nothing to do with the Clear Sky sect. It is a personal grievance between me, Tang Hao, and him. A battle of life and death, do you dare to accept?" The plaza instantly quieted down. Everyone's eyes were focused on Tang Hao, their faces full of shock. "Brother Hao, you're crazy, come down quickly." Tang Zio's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly stepped forward to pull him, but was shaken off by Tang Hao. "Do you dare to accept?" Tang Hao asked again, his eyes fixed intently on Kyan Zunji, full of provocation. Seeing this, Yin hurriedly grabbed Kyan Zunji's sleeve and said worriedly, "Brother Kyan, for the sake of my face, please don't make things difficult for Brother Hao, okay?" Yin, don't worry." Kyan Zunji patted her hand, his tone calm. "I wouldn't go so far as to make things difficult for my good nephew. You have already married me, and he is your junior, so don't get the address wrong." After saying this, he walked forward 2 steps, staring directly at Tang Hao, his eyes becoming cold and ruthless. "Good nephew, since you insist, I will fulfill your wish. However, you must be mentally prepared. The Supreme Pontiff's dignity cannot be provoked," he sneered in his heart. Finally, he took the bait. The Tang clan members really only have hammers in their heads. They explode at the slightest touch. P.S. Regarding the number of spirit masters, over 20 titled Duoluo, over 320 spirit Duoluo, over 1,500 spirit saint, 8,000 spirit emperor, 30,000 spirit king, 100,000 spirit ancestor, 250,000 spirit elder, spirit grandmaster and spirit master, over 800,000. My data here is very conservative in Slaughter City. Tens of thousands of spirit masters enter every year. At least 10,000 die on the road. Then there are the fights between spirit masters and the casualties from hunting spirit beast. At least tens of thousands of spirit masters die every year. The number of spirit masters in the original work does not exceed 100,000. It's fine to just look at it, but it can only be looked at. The 2 great empires, Heaven Du and Star Luo, can scrape together millions of troops. And they are basically heavy armored soldiers, which means at least 100 people are needed to support one soldier. There are at least hundreds of millions of people in Duoluo and over 1 million spirit masters. It's really not much. Chapter 22, Kyan Zunji vs. Tang Hao. The watching spirit masters held their breath, their gazes locked tightly onto the 2 figures on the high platform, not daring to even breathe loudly. Nothing remained on the plaza but the oppressive tension before the clash of spirit power. Tang Hao let out a low growl, and the pitch-black clear sky hammer suddenly appeared in his hand, its surface covered in ferocious patterns. 9 spirit rings pulsed around his body. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 black. His aura had reached an astonishing level 92. His slaughter god domain unfurled instantly, and the dense killing intent spread like a tidal wave, causing the surrounding low-level spirit masters to tremble involuntarily. Immediately following this, the first 6 spirit rings on his body exploded violently, transforming into streams of pure energy that merged into his body. causing his aura to surge abruptly. Tang Hao knew clearly that he had to go all out against Qian Zunji, otherwise the humiliation from 2 years ago would only repeat itself. Hiss, a chorus of gasps echoed across the plaza. This power, it's already approaching a level 96 super dual Yuo. Yu Yuanjin's pupils constricted, and he said in a deep voice, "The secret arts of the Clear Sky sect are truly worthy of their reputation." Sword Dulyuo's eyes were as sharp as blades as he nodded slowly. Combined with the Slaughter God domain, Tang Hao's combat power right now is enough to challenge and even defeat an ordinary level 96 super dual Yuo. Ning Fengzhai frowned slightly, saying worriedly, "Wouldn't that put Qian Zunji in danger? He is currently level 95, what if? Not necessarily." Bone Dual Yuo interrupted him. "The six-winged angel spirit has always been special. Fighting above one's rank is a daily occurrence. The outcome of this duel is hard to predict." On the high platform, Qian Zunji stood with his arms crossed, his eyes filled with undisguised contempt, as if he were watching a clown. Tang Hao was thoroughly enraged by his attitude, his face flushed red as he swung the Clear Sky hammer violently. His body began to spin rapidly, and as the speed increased, a black tornado formed around him, whipping up debris from the ground and creating a whistling wind. Within 2 breaths, the tornado suddenly condensed, transforming into a massive, pitch-black dragon. Its dragon scales shimmered with a cold luster, and it roared as it circled in midair. What kind of power is this? It's too terrifying. Just the aura alone makes it hard to breathe." The watching spirit masters retreated one after another, their faces filled with horror, and their gazes toward Tang Hao were full of awe. Tang Hao leapt high into the air, his body tracing an arc, and he hurled the Clear Sky hammer in his hand with the force of 1,000 jun. Qian Zunji, die. That black dragon seemed to possess life, roaring as it charged toward Qian Zunji. Wherever it passed, the air was torn apart, emitting a shrill screech. A contemptuous smile curled the corners of Qian Zunji's mouth. His 6-winged angel spirit instantly manifested, and 6 pairs of golden wings unfurled behind him, the holy light illuminating the entire plaza. 9 spirit rings appeared, and the second spirit ring was a vibrant red, suddenly lighting up. "Angel's wings," he said softly. As his voice fell, Qian Zunji's body became ethereal. This was the effect of angel's wings. In the ethereal state, it granted immunity to 100% of physical attacks, 80% of energy attacks, and 60% of mental attacks. The effect would only gradually diminish when the opponent's power far exceeded his own. The black dragon and the Clear Sky hammer passed right through Qian Zunji's body. The Clear Sky hammer slammed heavily into the ground, emitting a loud bang as dust filled the air. Ah Yin subconsciously covered her mouth, her eyes filled with worry. Tang Hao landed on the ground, looking at the large crater amidst the dust, a hint of triumph on his face. The watching spirit masters also stretched their necks, wanting to see the result clearly. After a few breaths, the dust gradually dissipated, revealing a 50-meter-wide crater on the high platform, with the stone slabs at the edges shattered and scattered. Just then, Qian Zunji's figure slowly materialized in midair. His golden Supreme Pontiff robes were still neat, without even a speck of dust, and a calm smile played on his face. How is this possible? Tang Hao took 2 steps back, his face filled with disbelief, his eyes full of shock and confusion. Qian Zunji's figure vanished suddenly, and when he reappeared, he was already in front of Tang Hao. He raised his hand and slapped Tang Hao across the face. A crisp slap echoed across the plaza. Immediately after, he stepped on Tang Hao's chest, looking down at him from above, his tone icy. "Nephew, weren't you very arrogant just now?" Tang Xiao down below had a livid expression, flames of anger burning in his eyes. He stared fixedly at Qian Zunji, his spirit power fluctuating violently, ready to strike at any moment. The murmurs on the plaza exploded again. "What exactly happened just now? How is the Supreme Pontiff unharmed? Did you see clearly?" The spirit rings under the Supreme Pontiff's feet just now seemed to have 2 red ones. 2 red ones. Are you suffering from presbyopia? Those are 100,000-year spirit rings. How could he have 2? I saw it too, the second spirit ring was indeed red. This is incredible. Uncle Sword, did you see clearly? Ning Fengjai asked in a low voice, his heart surging with turbulent waves. Sword Duluo said in a deep voice. The first and second spirit rings are both red. How is that possible? Ning Fengjai was deeply shocked. They were clearly two yellow ones before. Could Spirit Hall be able to replace spirit rings? This is absolutely impossible. There has never been a precedent. On the high platform, Qian Zunji lifted his foot and stepped heavily on Tang Hao's chest again. Tang Hao let out a muffled grunt, blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. Qian Zunji's angel spirit power was silently invading his body, suppressing his aura. What's wrong? Nephew, are you already done for? Qian Zunji's tone was full of sarcasm. Could it be that you're a 3-second man? 3 seconds. Tang Hao didn't understand this strange term, but the words done for stung him like a needle. His eyes instantly turned blood red, the rage and humiliation in his heart intertwined. Having just exploded 6 spirit rings, activated the slaughter god domain and unleashed the 81 hammers, he had consumed 80% of his spirit power. Now, to resist, he could only. 3 black spirit rings suddenly lit up on his body, then exploded. Tang Hao's aura surged once more, carrying a resolute killing intent. Seeing this, Qian Zunji quickly retreated several zhang. The spirit power shockwave, erupted by a spirit master, was an indiscriminate area of effect attack. He didn't want to dirty his clothes on his wedding day. After all, there were more important things to do tonight. Tang Hao stared at Qian Zunji with murderous intent, his body trembling slightly from the excessive overdraft of spirit power, yet he still glared at him fixedly, refusing to admit defeat. Suddenly, a hand patted his shoulder. Tang Zio's voice sounded in his ear, carrying a hint of exhaustion and helplessness. Brother Hao, that's enough. He transmitted his voice using spirit power. You have very little spirit power left in your body, and the energy from the ring explosion cannot last. Come back with me, cultivate well for 10 years, and then come back to avenge today's humiliation. Tang Hao turned around abruptly, looking at Tang Zio. His lips moved, wanting to say something, but in the end, he only clenched his fists, a low, unwilling growl echoing in his throat. P.S. Originally, Angel's wings had the effect of granting 100% immunity to physical attacks and 50% immunity to energy attacks. Now that it has become close to a 400,000-year age, the effect has been strengthened. As for why a 100-year spirit ring has such a heaven-defying effect, it is unclear. What is even more unclear is that with such a spirit ability, it was actually suppressed by the clear sky hammer. I can't figure it out. Chapter 23. The Haoshan twin stars, spirit bone stripping Tang Zio. Since you've come up, why not join Tang Hao? Qian Zunji looked down from his elevated position, his tone carrying a hint of mockery. Let us spar a bit, add some excitement to my wedding celebration. What do you say? Tang Zio's face darkened like ink, his voice cold. Your Holiness jests. Today is your joyous occasion. Sparring is inappropriate. Tang Zio. Qian Zunji slowly walked closer, his voice not loud, yet laced with a thread of menace. This is the Spirit Hall. I advise you to think carefully. The plaza. Is Tang Zio perhaps afraid? The Haoshan twin stars have a resounding reputation, achieving titled Duluo status at a young age. Tang Hao is said to be only 43, the youngest titled Duluo. So what? They are still far inferior to His Holiness. Look, he subdued Tang Hao with a single slap earlier. Tang Zhen stood below the stage, listening to these discussions, his face livid. His eyes swept viciously over the chattering spirit masters. Damn it. So what if this is the Spirit Hall? I, the sect, will remember today's humiliation. If there is a future day, I will surely make you pay the price. Tang Zio looked back at Tang Zhen, saw him nod slowly, and his heart sank. He understood. If they did not accept the challenge today, the Clear Sky Sect's title of #1 sect under heaven would truly become nothing but an empty name, since your holiness commands it. Tang Zio took a deep breath and said solemnly, then I must offend. A pitch-black clear sky hammer suddenly appeared in his hand. 9 spirit rings pulsed around him as well. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 black. His aura was in no way inferior to Tang Hao's. The two brothers exchanged a glance and moved simultaneously, attacking Qian Zunji from the left and right. Tang Xiao understood clearly in his heart. Qian Zunji's second spirit ability could evade physical attacks. The Clear Sky Hammer's physical spirit abilities were useless against him. Only by unleashing the Clear Sky 9 absolutes and the disorder-splitting wind hammer method could they perhaps find an opening. Tang Hao took the initiative, sweeping his Clear Sky Hammer in a horizontal arc. It was the break technique from the Clear Sky 9 absolutes. The hammer's wind, carrying shattered stones, shot straight for Qian Zunji's face. Qian Zunji's figure flickered, sidestepping to avoid it. The hammer wind brushed past his robe and smashed into the stone pillar behind him, cracking it with a loud snap. Tang Xiao followed closely behind, his Clear Sky Hammer descending in a vertical chop. The Quake Absolute technique. Qian Zunji tapped his toes, his body lifting into the air, evading the hammer's edge. Simultaneously, he flicked a strand of golden spirit power from his fingertip, striking the handle of Tang Xiao's hammer. Tang Xiao felt a clever force transmit through it, and his hammer momentum instantly stalled. Seizing the opening, Tang Hao abruptly changed his hammer technique. The disorder-splitting wind hammer method unfolded. The Clear Sky Hammer in his hand transformed into a blur of afterimages, layer upon layer of hammer shadows enveloping Qian Zunji. Qian Zunji's 6 wings fluttered lightly behind him as his figure twisted and turned in midair. Each time, he precisely avoided the core of the hammer shadows. Occasionally raising a hand, a strand of golden spirit power would shoot out, always accurately striking Tang Hao at the moment his old force was spent and new force had not yet been born, causing his Qi and blood to churn. Seeing this, Tang Xiao unleashed the seal technique. Spirit power condensed on his Clear Sky Hammer, forming an invisible shackle attempting to restrain Qian Zunji's movements. A flash of golden light passed through Qian Zunji's eyes. A faint golden light shield manifested around his body. The shackle touched the light shield and dissipated instantly as if sinking into a quagmire. He slapped out with a backhanded palm. A golden palm wind shot straight for Tang Xiao's chest. Tang Xiao, hastily blocked horizontally with his hammer, was sent staggering back 3 steps, his arm numb. The two brothers joined forces again. Tang Hao used Slay to tear through space, while Tang Xiao used Entangle to lock onto his aura. The two attacks, one rigid, one soft, sealed off all of Qian Zunji's escape routes, yet Qian Zunji remained unhurried. With a beat of his 6 wings, his body transformed into a stream of light, actually slipping through the gap between the two attacks. Simultaneously, he spun around and kicked Tang Hao in the lower back. Tang Hao stumbled several steps, nearly falling. Discussions rose and fell like waves across the plaza. His Holiness is too powerful. Facing 2 titled dueluos, he's still handling them with ease. Even the Clear Sky 9 absolutes can't touch him. The gap is too vast. Look, His Holiness hasn't used his full strength with each move. He's clearly toying with them. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, cold sweat beaded on Tang Xiao's forehead, his face pale. He could clearly feel the spirit power within his body rapidly draining. Every time Qian Zunji struck him, though the force was light, it carried a peculiar purifying power. Each collision would dissolve a portion of his spirit power. At this moment, the spirit power within him was less than 30%. Tang Hao was even more exhausted, breathing heavily. The killing intent of his slaughter god domain had dimmed considerably, clearly reaching his limit. It's time to end this. A golden light flashed in Qian Zunji's eyes. His figure rose, suspending in midair. The first spirit ring beneath his feet, that vivid red spirit ring, suddenly lit up. Angel Assault. This spirit ability combined attack and defense. When attacking, a golden energy shield would manifest around his body, enhanced with purification and dissolution effects. If someone of equal spirit power was struck head-on, their power would be purified by 5 to 10%. Those with weaker spirit power might even have it purified completely. Qian Zunji descended like a golden meteor, trailing a brilliant light tail, diving towards the two brothers. Tang Hao and Tang Zio. Spirit Bone Skill, Clear Sky Barrier. Spirit Bone Skill, Clear Sky Protection. Seeing this, the two brothers dared not be negligent. They simultaneously activated their Spirit Bone skills. A massive black shield materialized before Tang Hao, while a thick, earthy yellow halo enveloped Tang Zio. Boom. A deafening roar shook the air as the golden meteor collided with the black shield and yellow halo, erupting in a blinding flash of light. A moment later, the light dissipated. Tang Hao and Tang Zio both lay sprawled on the ground. The protective halos from their Spirit Bone skills had shattered. The spirit power within their bodies had been purified completely, leaving them without even the strength to lift a hand. Qian Zunji hovered in midair, looking at the two fallen figures, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. For this angel assault, he had only used 30% of his power, fearing he might truly kill them. Tang Zhen watched from below, his heart pounding. Just as he thought to step forward, he was blocked by Chrysanthemum Duoluo and Ghost Duoluo. Sect Master Tang. Chrysanthemum Duoluo said with a false smile, "Those two are unharmed. This is the arena. Uninvolved persons are not permitted entry." Tang Zhen's face was livid. He looked at Qian Zunji and said angrily, "Your Holiness, they have already been defeated. What is the meaning of this action of yours?" Qian Zunji glanced at him indifferently, then turned and proclaimed loudly to the surrounding spirit masters. The cultivation of spirit masters is inseparable from spirit beasts. The Spirit Hall, in conjunction with the upper three sects and the two empires, has established multiple hunting soul forests. This is not only to protect the common people, but also to safeguard the long-term interests of spirit masters. It prevents spirit beasts from being slaughtered in large numbers by those with ulterior motives, which would leave future generations without spirit rings to use. Your Holiness speaks truly. It really should be regulated. Spirit beasts have become increasingly scarce these years. But what does this have to do with the Clear Sky sect? Amidst the discussions, a sense of unease faintly rose in Tang Zhen's heart. Qian Zunji's tone shifted abruptly. Pointing at Tang Zhen, his voice suddenly turned sharp. Yet the Clear Sky sect, disregarding the interests of spirit masters across the entire continent, has condoned its members wantonly slaughtering 10,000-year spirit beasts in the major spirit beast forests, solely to obtain spirit bones. You slander us. Tang Zhen roared in fury. My Clear Sky sect disciples' hunting for spirit rings is perfectly justified. What talk of wanton slaughter is this? Whether it's slander or not, everyone can see for themselves. Ignoring his rebuttal, Qian Zunji gathered a ball of golden energy in each hand. The energy balls fell upon Tang Hao and Tang Zio respectively. The two brothers immediately curled up in pain, their bodies trembling violently, faces contorted with agony. Qian Zunji, what are you doing? Tang Zhen's eyes nearly split with rage as he prepared to charge forward. Sect Master Tang, don't move. Chrysanthemum Duoluo stepped forward, his tone icy. If you dare to make a move, you are preparing to start a war with my spirit hall. Tang Zhen's steps halted abruptly. Start a war. Without his father, Tang Chen, presiding, with the Clear Sky sect's current strength alone, going to war with the Spirit Hall would be tantamount to seeking their own destruction. He clenched his fists so tightly his nails dug deep into his palms. After a few breaths, 6 glowing spheres slowly materialized before Tang Hao, while 5 appeared before Tang Zio. The spheres flickered with various colors of light. Soon the light faded, revealing the objects inside. They were all spirit bones, so many spirit bones. Yuanjin exclaimed involuntarily, a flash of greed in his eyes. Sword Duoluo frowned deeply. Bone Duoluo's expression turned grave, while Ning Fengzhai glanced at Tang Zhen, his thoughts unknown. Tang Zhen's face was as black as a pot bottom, his lips pressed into a tight line, his entire body trembling slightly. The spirit masters on the plaza looked at those spirit bones, and instantly, greedy flames ignited in their eyes. Their breathing became rapid. These are the spirit bones on the bodies of Tang Hao and Tang Zio. Qian Zunji's voice thundered like a clap, resounding across the plaza. A total of 11 pieces between the two. Each piece is at least a top-quality spirit bone from a 30,000-year spirit beast or above. He paused, his tone full of sarcasm. The Clear Sky sect is truly wealthy. For two mere 92nd rank titled dueluos to possess 11 10,000-year spirit bones. 11 10,000-year spirit bones. How many 10,000-year spirit beasts would that require killing? The drop rate for 10,000-year spirit bones is less than 1 in 10,000. It's not just them. The sect master and elders of the Clear Sky sect must have them too. That would be at least 20 or more pieces. The Clear Sky sect is truly a sinner to all spirit masters across the continent. Even with the best luck, they'd have to kill 100 or 200,000 10,000-year spirit beasts. How difficult is it for spirit beasts to cultivate? If they keep killing like this, what high-age spirit rings will future generations have to use? Could it be they can only cultivate to Spirit Saint? The tide of discussion surged towards him. The gazes of everyone looking at N.A.N. turned hostile. Even the people from the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect frowned, their eyes cold. Chapter 24. A world where only the Clear Sky sect gets hurt. N.A.N. raised his hand, and the suspended spirit bone flew into his spirit tool as if guided, their radiance fading until they vanished without a trace. I propose. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. His voice was clear and resonant, carrying across the plaza, that from this day forward, any Clear Sky sect disciple wishing to obtain a spirit ring must be accompanied and supervised by members of the other two sects or the two great empires. The Clear Sky sect is, after all, the #1 sect in the world. We cannot allow its legacy foundation to be severed just because a few individuals made mistakes. The plaza immediately erupted into chaos, with waves of discussion rising and falling. This move is ruthless. It looks like he's leaving them a way out, but in reality, he's nailed the Clear Sky sect to the pillar of shame. Who told them to be so incompetent, getting caught red-handed? They deserve it. It's better to have others watching them, so they don't go around recklessly killing Spirit Beast and cutting off the path for future generations. So what if they are the #1 sect in the world? Don't they still have to submit to Spirit Hall? The representatives of the other two sects and the two great empires wore faint, ambiguous smiles, their gazes sweeping over the members of the Clear Sky sect with undisguised mockery. They said nothing, but each had their own calculations. Spirit Hall's decision did not harm their interests. Instead, they could take this opportunity to monitor the Clear Sky sect and perhaps even thoroughly study the mysteries of the Clear Sky Hammer, the #1 sect in the world. Aren't they still going to be watched by them now? I do not agree. N.A.N. roared furiously, his voice hoarse like a broken gong, his chest heaving violently. N.A.N., don't you dare bully us too much. My Clear Sky sect acts openly and honorably. We don't need outsiders to point fingers. My Clear Sky sect will never accept such humiliation. N.A.N. was filled with grievances. Their Clear Sky sect was naturally gifted, with a spirit bone explosion rate far exceeding that of ordinary people. His father, N.A.N., could produce one spirit bone from 110,000-year spirit beast. His son, N.A.N., was the same. N.A.N. was slightly inferior, needing 300 to produce one. Even the worst disciple in the sect was guaranteed a harvest from 1,000 10,000-year spirit beast. They had killed less than 20,000 10,000-year spirit beast in total, yet Spirit Hall slandered them by claiming they had killed 1 or 200,000. How could he swallow this insult? When his father, N.A.N., returned, he would definitely make Spirit Hall pay a bloody price. N.A.N.'s gaze turned cold, and the pressure around him dispersed like a cold current. N.A.N. and N.A.N. are guilty of grave sins, having slaughtered over 100,000 10,000-year spirit beast, seriously disrupting the balance of the Spirit Master's world. As the Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall, today I shall. Your Holiness the Supreme Pontiff, N.A.N. interrupted him, his voice filled with exhaustion and despair. The Clear Sky sect accepts the punishment. As these words fell, he seemed to have all his strength instantly drained away. His spine bent like a bow, the white hair at his temples trembled, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes deepened like ravines, and his once sharp gaze became turbid. Qian Zunji lifted his foot and kicked the unconscious Tang Hao and Tang Xiao toward Tang Zhen. Tang Zhen stumbled forward, catching them steadily. Looking at their pale faces, his heart felt as if it had been crushed by a boulder, and he couldn't breathe from the pain. The wedding continues. Qian Zunji waved his hand, his tone as indifferent as if he were just brushing away a speck of dust. Clear Sky Sect Grand Elder Tang Hong stepped forward and bowed. Your Holiness, the Supreme Pontiff, those 11 spirit bone of our Clear Sky Sect. His voice trembled, carrying a final glimmer of hope. Qian Zunji turned around, his gaze piercing toward him like an ice blade. That is your punishment. What do you have an objection? Tang Hong shuddered, quickly lowering his head, his voice as faint as a mosquito's hum. I dare not. Humiliation gnawed at his heart like a venomous snake, but he had to swallow it down. The wedding music began to play again, melodious and gentle, as if the conflict just now had never happened. Spirit bone can actually be stripped away. Ning Fengzhai leaned on his cane, his tone complex. Spirit Hall is worthy of being the longest-standing spirit master power. To think they have such methods. Yu Yuanjin stared at Qian Zunji on the high platform, greed flashing in his eyes. No wonder Tang Hao and Tang Xiao cultivate so quickly, one with 5 spirit bone, the other with 6. With such resources, even a disciple with innate spirit power of level 7 could be piled up into a titled duelyuo. He calculated secretly, 11 10,000-year spirit bone, he only had 2. If they belonged to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect, they could produce at least 3 more titled duelyuo. What a pity, Sword Duelyuo said in a low voice. Spirit Hall has obtained these spirit bone. In the future, their genius will surely spring up like bamboo shoots after rain, and their strength will likely rise to a higher level. Qian Zunji is terrifyingly strong, Prince Zhu Xing said in a low voice. You think he will reach the level of Qian Dailiu in the future? Everyone fell silent at these words. Qian Dailiu's strength was unfathomable. He was an existence standing at the pinnacle of the spirit master's world. The angel spirit is naturally gifted, Sword Duelyuo broke the silence. According to my father, the direct bloodline of the angel clan, as long as they do not fall, can at least reach level 98. Level 98. Everyone's expressions changed drastically, their eyes filled with shock. A level 98 Super Duelyuo is an existence that can rival a Super Duelyuo. Level 98, is that possible? Bone Duelyuo frowned. A level 98 spirit master can live for at least several hundred years, but have you ever seen Qian Dailiu's father's generation? I'm not sure, Sword Duelyuo shook his head. But my father said that every generation of the angel clan has extremely high cultivate, but once this generation fully matures, the previous generation disappears. Everyone fell silent again, their gazes fixed on Qian Zunji on the high platform, their eyes complex, filled with awe, wariness, and an indescribable sense of inquiry. At this time in Spirit City, the streets and alleys were decorated with lanterns and colorful streamers, red silk cascading like waterfalls, lanterns like stars, and the entire city was immersed in a festive glow. The flowing banquet stretched from the Supreme Pontiff Palace all the way to the city gate, table after table, extending for miles. The Supreme Pontiff was getting married, and all hundreds of thousands of people in the city could take their seats. Fine wine and delicacies were served like flowing water, and laughter shook the heavens. Only the Clear Sky Sect group walked out of Spirit City, dejected. Tang Zhen carried Tang Hao on his back, Tang Hong supported Tang Xiao, and there was a crowd of Clear Sky Sect disciple behind them. Their footsteps were as heavy as if filled with lead, and they walked away with embarrassment and humiliation. On the high platform, Qian Zunji watched their retreating figures and thought to himself, why didn't Tang Hao explode with power this time? Is it because Spirit Hall is the place of the angel legacy and that person is not convenient to take action? However, what does that matter? A confident arc curled at the corner of his mouth. I will definitely become a god, and the strongest god at that. Tang Hao, just keep growing. I'll be waiting in Spirit Hall. Leeks must be harvested slowly. One cannot be too hasty. I must let him grow thicker and stronger so that the next harvest can yield a greater bounty. He turned around and took Ah Yin's hand. The tenderness in her eyes rippled like spring water. Amidst the cheers and music filling the sky, the wedding continued. P.S. Stripping spirit bone is a unique technique of the angel clan. The prerequisite for stripping is that the angel spirit power must be inside the body of the person being stripped for at least one stick of incense time before it can gradually disconnect from the spirit bone in their body. Also, the person being stripped cannot resist, otherwise it cannot be stripped. Tang Hao and Tang Xiao had their limbs unable to move, and there was no more spirit power in their bodies. Only then could the stripping conditions be met. Both brothers had all their spirit bones stripped away. Tang Hao is currently demoted to level 80 Cultivate. Tang Xiao is currently demoted to level 81 Cultivate. Chapter 25. Angel Spirit Ring Hunting Operation. Target: Stardew Great Forest. Early the next morning, Supreme Pontiff Palace. Qian Zunji sat upright on the Supreme Pontiff throne. With a light lift of his fingertips, two spirit bones emitting a deep purple halo slowly floated up. His spirit power supported them as they drifted toward Chrysanthemum Duoluo and Ghost Duoluo, who stood below the steps. The two of you have followed me for many years. Qian Zunji's voice resonated. Although your spirit power has reached level 94, your strength is only at the level 91 or 92 standard. These two 30,000-year strength-type spirit bones can compensate for your shortcomings. Chrysanthemum Duoluo's pupils constricted. Seeing the surging power fluctuations within the spirit bones, his breathing became rapid. He hurriedly bowed. Thank you for your grace, your excellency Supreme Pontiff. Ghost Duoluo was also incredibly excited. Black spirit power vibrated slightly around his body as he said in a deep voice, "This subordinate will surely go through fire and water for your excellency Supreme Pontiff. Absorb them right here." Qian Zunji waved his hand. Yes, the two responded, immediately sitting cross-legged and placing the spirit bones onto their corresponding positions. A pale purple halo enveloped them. Spirit power surged into their bodies like a tide, and their bones emitted faint click sounds as their auras climbed at a speed visible to the naked eye. An hour later, the two slowly opened their eyes, sharp light exploding within their pupils. Chrysanthemum Duoluo clenched his fist, feeling the abundant strength coming from the arm bone, and a confident arc curled at the corners of his mouth. Ghost Duoluo's shadow power became more solid. With a light step, spider-web-like cracks appeared on the ground. They were one step closer to level 95. In 3 years at most, they would be able to touch that threshold. Half an hour later. Let's move out. Qian Zunji stood up, his black Supreme Pontiff robe billowing with the movement, and led Qian Rengsu as he walked out. Chrysanthemum Duoluo, Ghost Duoluo, Qian Jun, and Jiang Mo followed closely behind. The group's figures turned into streams of light, rushing rapidly towards Stardew Great Forest. Qian Zunji carried Qian Rengsu on his back. The little one lay on Qian Zunji's shoulder, her small head swaying gently with the bumps of the flight, curiously watching the sea of trees flashing rapidly below. Among the several enshrinement hall enshriners, Qian Jun, Jiang Mo, and location had already advanced to level 97 titled Duoluo. King Luan and Lion still needed a few more years of refinement before they could break through. Golden Crocodile had been stuck at level 98 for many years. Even with the help of an immortal herb, the chasm from level 98 to level 99 was unknown when it could be crossed. Deep within Stardew Great Forest, the Lake of Life rippled with green waves. The sky azure bull python's massive body surfaced from the water, his snake pupils looking warily toward the horizon. Ming, Sister Xiao Wu, Aunt King Ru, several tyrannical auras are approaching rapidly. Let's avoid them. Avoid what? Xiao Wu's ears stood straight up, every strand of her snow-white fur distinct. This is our territory, why should we hide? She tapped her foot, her figure already leaping onto the Titan giant ape's shoulder, her tail flicking restlessly. Xiao Wu, listen to Da Ming. King Ru stepped forward, her slender hand pressing on the soft sword at her waist, worry knitted between her brows. The incomer's auras are too strong. We cannot confront them head-on. Xiao Wu pouted, muttering, got it. It's too late. The sky azure bull python's voice deepened, his massive snake head slowly lifting to look at the light spots rapidly approaching in the sky. The titan giant ape Ming slammed his chest violently, emitting a deafening roar, his pupils burning with raging anger. His massive body blocked in front of the other beasts, and the ground was stamped into deep pits. Qian Zunji and his group landed slowly, touching down on the open ground by the lake. He set Qian Rengsu down, and the little one tilted her neck back, looking at the sky azure bull python and the titan giant ape. Her small face was full of wonder. Daddy, they are so big. Are we here to take them as pets? Humans, leave this place. The sky azure bull python lowered his head, his massive snake mouth almost touching the ground. His voice was like muffled thunder rolling over the lake, stirring up layers of ripples. King Ru gripped her soft sword tightly, her eyes warily locked onto Qian Zunji. Ming pounded his chest again. The roar shook the leaves until they rustled down, and the rising airwaves pressed the water grass by the lake flat against the ground. Xiao Wu bared her teeth, her hind legs slightly bent, ready to pounce at any moment, the fluff at the tips of her ears standing up. Xiao Zhu, we are not here to collect pets. Qian Zunji ruffled his daughter's hair, his gaze sweeping over the spirit beasts in the lake and on the shore. We are here to find your third spirit ring. Qian Rengsu had reached level 30 quasi-spirit elder several months ago and had spent these past few months devoted to honing her basic skills. Under normal circumstances, it was absolutely impossible for Xiao Zhu to absorb a 100,000-year spirit ring at level 30, but sacrifice was inherently a shortcut for the protagonist to defy the heavens and change fate. There was no reason not to use it. Originally, Qian Zunji had his eye on the sky azure bull python's spirit ring, but then he saw King Ru, that spirit beast who had lived for 200,000 years and taken human form. He changed his mind. A 200,000-year spirit ring, even if not perfectly matched with the angel spirit, contained vast energy far beyond what a 100,000-year one could compare to, enough to provide the origin power required by the angel spirit. Between 100,000 years and 200,000 years, the choice was self-evident. Do it. Before Qian Zunji's voice had even faded, the figures of the few people behind him had already vanished. Thousand-weight Duoluo brought his hands together, and the coiling dragon rod instantly took form. Dragon patterns spiraled around the rod body, and heavy rod shadows, carrying the momentum to split mountains and crack stones, smashed toward the bull's head. The sky azure bull python reacted extremely quickly. His massive body swung violently, and his snake tail lashed out like a steel whip. With a bang, it collided with the coiling dragon rod. The lake water was shaken, kicking up huge waves, and 1,000-weight Duoluo was jolted back several zhang. His tiger's mouth was numb, but battle intent ignited in his eyes. He twisted his body and went up again, the rod shadows crisscrossing to weave a net of rods, firmly covering the snake head. Jiang Mo Duoluo faced off against the titan giant ape. A coiling dragon rod also appeared in his hand, but the rod body gleamed with a pitch-black luster, and as it spun, it carried a piercing sound of breaking through the air, aiming straight for Ming's eyes. Ming roared, throwing both fists out, forcefully blocking the rod shadows. His massive body rushed forward violently, crashing toward Jiang Mo with the momentum of a collapsing mountain. Jiang Mo nimbly dodged to the side, his double rods sweeping horizontally, striking at Ming's knees. Ming felt the pain and stumbled back half a step. Immediately, he pounded the ground even more violently, countless gravel flying and shooting toward Jiang Mo like bullets. Ghost Duoluo's figure flickered, merging into the shadows by the lake. The next moment, he appeared behind Xiao Wu, his pitch-black spirit power transforming into sharp claws, grabbing toward her heart with bone-chilling cold. Xiao Wu's reaction was extremely fast. Using the titan giant ape as cover, she leaped forward, simultaneously turning around to throw a flying kick. Her snow-white rabbit leg carried a fierce wind, kicking toward Ghost Duluo's face. Ghost Duluo sneered, his figure turning intangible again. While dodging the attack, his spirit power condensed into chains, coiling toward Xiao Wu's ankles like a venomous snake. Xiao Wu spun in the air, her toes tapping on the chains to bounce off, and delivered another roundhouse kick, forcing Ghost Duluo to materialize to block. Chrysanthemum Duluo waved his hands, and countless pale purple petals flew out, the petals rushing toward King Ru like maggots on the tarsal bone. King Ru's toes tapped the ground, her figure weaving through the petals like willow catkins. At the same time, she flicked several green light blades from her fingertips, slashing toward those petals. Wherever the light blades passed, the petals instantly withered into ash, her eyes narrowed, her spirit power surged around her, turning into a green stream of light. Her soft sword unsheathed, the sword light like a ribbon, aiming straight for Chrysanthemum Duluo's heart. Chrysanthemum Duluo was unhurried, his hands forming seals, and the petals suddenly condensed into a shield. It collided with King Ru's soft sword, sparks flying everywhere, and the sword Kai slashed a long watermark across the lake's surface. Kaian Zunji stood where he was, shielding Kaian Renksu behind him, his gaze watching the battle with cold intensity. Kaian Renksu tugged on her father's robe, her small face devoid of any fear. The open ground by the lake had become a battlefield. The roars of spirit power colliding, the roars of spirit beasts, and the sounds of weapons clashing were intertwined, shaking the entire forest slightly. The sky azure bull python's snake scales gleamed with a green light in the sunlight, constantly crashing into thousand-weight Duluo's rod net. The titan giant ape's fists smashed the ground into pits, fighting Jiang Mo's black rod in an evenly matched battle. Xiao Wu's rabbit kicks were fierce and swift, yet she could never shake off Ghost Duluo's shadow entanglement. Although King Ru's sword light was fast, it was tightly entangled by Chrysanthemum Duluo's petals, gradually falling into a disadvantage. Kaian Zunji's gaze fell on King Ru, watching her figure gradually failing, and a cold arc curled at the corners of his mouth. A 200,000-year spirit ring was, after all, something already in his daughter's bag. 1,000 subscribers. Party Popper, thank you to everyone who watched, liked, commented, and supported this channel. Reaching 1K is a huge milestone, and I couldn't have done it without you. This is only the beginning. Our next goal is 5,000 subscribers, and we're moving forward together. Rocket fire.
Welcome back, Novel Audiobooks. Subscribe for more amazing. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Double domains broken. Two extremes stillness domain. The sky azure bull python and the titan giant ape staggered under Kaian Jun and Jiang Mo's fierce assault, quickly huddling together. The sky azure bull python raised its head and let out a long, drawn-out hiss, like a bull and a python combined. A pale blue aura spread out from it, and the sluggish domain quietly unfolded. The titan giant ape followed closely, frantically pounding its chest with both fists, letting out a deafening roar. Earthy yellow light swept out, and the gravity domain instantly enveloped the battlefield. Kaian Jun and Jiang Mo, who were attacking, suddenly felt their bodies become sluggish, their limbs as if filled with lead, and their movements clumsy. The two exchanged glances, seeing solemnity in each other's eyes, then simultaneously leaped high, all 9 spirit rings shining brightly, and the 9th spirit ring suddenly burst forth with dazzling light.